All right, so get ready, because today we're diving deep into biblical history, Genesis chapter 36, all about Esau's family tree.
And you might be thinking, a family tree, really?
Ah,
But honestly, this is not your typical genealogy chart. It gives us a look into the power dynamics and migrations, even rivalries of ancient times.
yeah, exactly. It's like opening a time capsule. We've got this detailed record of Esau's descendants, his wives, his sons, even the dukes and kings that came from him. It's like a who's who from way back then.
And what's fascinating is what this chapter shows us about that time. It goes way beyond just listing names. It shows us how societies formed, how power was structured, how they interacted with their surroundings.
Okay, let's break it down, starting with Esau himself, also known as Edom, and he had a lot of wives, right? The chapter lists Ada, Holibama, and Basemath.
Right, and having multiple wives might seem strange today, but back then it was common in many cultures. It wasn't just a personal preference either. It reflected alliances, social status, even just wanting heirs.
So each wife brought something important. Connections, influence, future generations. Marriages back then were pretty strategic.
Absolutely, and each of these wives had kids. Adding to the family tree, Ada had Eliphaz, Basemath had Reuel, and Aholibama had Josh, Jalam, and Korah.
It's like a royal family. But then Esau decides to move his whole family away from Jacob. What made them leave?
Well, Genesis 36.7 tells us their wealth grew so much that the land couldn't support both families and all their livestock. They needed more space and resources.
I can see that causing problems. Like when families grow so big, they need their own space. But back then, resources were even more limited. Maybe that's what stopped a fight between the brothers.
Exactly. It shows how important resources were back then. Even powerful people like Esau had to move when resources were scarce. This happened through our history. It caused migrations and changed nations.
Even in the Bible, people faced real problems.
Yeah.
And this move led Esau to Mount Seir, the land associated with the Edomites, his descendants.
And Mount Seir wasn't empty. The Horites lived there. The chapter even shows their family line, showing the powers in the region before Esau got there.
So we're looking at many family trees, not just one,
Yeah.
all connected together.
Exactly. And looking at Esau's line, we see these dukes. If you don't know the Bible that well, a duke wasn't royalty like we think of it. They were more like a tribal leader.
Okay, so powerful, but not a king.
Right. Influential leaders in Esau's family, we see Teman, Omar, Zepho, and Kenaz, almost like ancient heroes.
It does feel epic. And some names, like Korah, show up a few times. Is that random or is there more to it?
It's a good observation. It could mean they married family, or even the same name passed down. Just another part of this puzzle.
So much info in just names. We're getting clues about the social dynamics and power back then.
Absolutely. And speaking of details, there's verse 24 about a Horite descendant named Anna.
Oh, yeah. Found the mules in the wilderness while he was watching his father's donkeys. Why is that even in a genealogy?
Makes you wonder, right? What's so special about mules?
Maybe it showed how clever Anna was. Or a big change in raising animals. Mules are strong and sure-footed. They'd be great pack animals, especially on tough land.
Good point. This was way before cars or even horses were common. A discovery like that would change their lives, how they traveled and moved things.
It's crazy how little details show us what life was like back then. We got families, migrations, even animal stuff. And we haven't even talked about the kings.
Oh, yeah. Genesis chapter 36 tells us Edom had kings before Israel.
Seriously, that's amazing. It changes how we think of the Bible. Edom had a government way before the Israelites became a monarchy.
Exactly. It shows that Israel wasn't the only power. Edom was important, maybe even influencing how Israel's kingship developed.
So now we've got kings too. The chapter lists a bunch, starting with Bela, then Jobab, then Husham. It's like a dynasty, each king changing Edom.
And it goes on Hadad, Samlah, Saul, Bulhanan, and Hadar. Each name is a period in Edom's history, a piece of their story, stepping stones through time.
Migrations, leaders, kings. This is a huge story. It's crazy how much we learn from one chapter.
And there's more. We haven't even talked about those dukes in verses 40-43. They don't seem to fit in with the other families, like a secret branch of the family tree.
Ooh, that's interesting. Who are these dukes? What do they tell us about Edom later on? This is full of surprises. I can't wait to explore that last part of the genealogy. What do you say we get into that? So we're back and ready for those dukes in verses 40-43. It's like we've been through Edom's whole history. And we get this curveball.
It shows how complex these societies were. These names don't really fit in with the other families we talked about.
Yeah, like finding a secret room in a mansion. What do you think about these dukes?
Well, there are a few possibilities. These names could be later Edomite leaders. maybe after some changes or expansion, like a snapshot of Edom's leadership at a different time.
Oh, so it wasn't just one group of leaders. It changed over time. I wonder what caused those changes.
Exactly. Or maybe it's a whole different clan within the Edomites, each with their own leaders. So Edomite society was even more diverse than we thought.
This chapter just keeps going, showing us something new each time. It makes me think about family trees differently. It's not just about who your ancestors are. It's about understanding the connections that make us who we are.
That's so true. And for Esau's family?
It's about where he fits in the whole Bible story.
Hmm.
Genesis often uses genealogies to show us chosen people and their destinies.
Right. We hear about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the family that leads to the Israelites.
But what does this tell us about Esau? What about his legacy?
Good question. Remember, Esau was Jacob's older twin, the one who traded his birthright for a bowl of stew. He's known for being impulsive, wanting things right away.
Yeah, he's like the example of bad choices. But this chapter seems different, right?
Exactly. It shows us he had a big, successful family. He moved to a new land. His kids built a complex society. They had their own leaders and rulers.
He makes you think differently about those labels of chosen and rejected. God's plan is big and complicated.
Exactly, and it shows that God works through everyone and everything, not just those following the main story. Esau's story is important. It's connected to Israel's story.
Makes you wonder what would happen if things were different. Like if Esau didn't trade his birthright, how would Edom and Israel's relationship be?
That's interesting. We can't change history, but looking at genealogies makes us think about the choices people make and how destinies are connected.
Moving to a new place is a big deal too. Esau going to Seir wasn't just about the scenery. It created a new nation, the Edomites.
Yeah.
All the migrations in history, even today. They change cultures and who people are.
For sure, and don't forget, the Horites were already in Seir. The chapter talks about them interacting, maybe even fighting. People have always been moving around, looking for opportunities, running from trouble, or just exploring. That's how humanity is made.
It's interesting how Genesis goes into so much detail. It's like it's saying that every person, every family is important. These aren't just random people. There's sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, all part of our story.
It's like it's against being nameless, right? Each name means someone lived, their story is told. Just like Esau made us curious, our lives might have interesting things for people to find in the future.
That's a crazy thought. We're all connected, part of something bigger. And looking at these old genealogies, it helps us understand our place in the world, how we're connected to the past, and what we might mean for the future.
So as we finish up with Genesis chapter 36, I want you to look into your own family history. Go back through time, find the stories that made you who you are. You might be surprised what you find.
Exactly. All those names and connections. They hold amazing stories of courage, adventures, love, and sadness. When you put them together, it's like a big picture of what it means to be human. It reminds us we're all part of something much bigger. And who knows, maybe someone will explore your story someday. They'll be amazed by everything that happened in your life.
Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep looking deep into history and what it means to be human. There's always something new and exciting to learn. That's the best part of going deep.
We've really gone deep into Genesis chapter 36. It's amazing how a list of names turn into this big exploration of families, history, and even destiny.
It shows that the most unexpected places can hold the best stuff. Who knew a genealogy could tell us so much about ancient times?
Right. We talked about Esau's wives and sons, the dukes, the kings, even those extra dukes at the end, migrations, power, those complex relationships in Edom. It's like a giant historical jigsaw puzzle.
And the best part of a puzzle is seeing the whole picture. So what does this genealogy tell us about Esau, about his descendants and where they fit in the Bible?
It definitely makes you think twice about chosen versus rejected. Esau, even though he made some impulsive choices, built a powerful family, a whole nation. It reminds us that God's plan is bigger and more complex than we think.
Exactly. God works through everyone and everything, not just those who seem to be following the main story. Esau's story is important. It's connected to Israel's story.
It makes you wonder, what if?
Hmm.
What if Esau hadn't traded his birthright? Would Edom and Israel's relationship be different?
Those are great questions. We can't change the past, but looking at these genealogies, it makes us think about the choices people made and how our destinies are all connected.
And moving to a new place is a big deal. Esau going to Seir created the Edomites. It makes you think about all the migrations throughout history, even today, and how they change cultures and who we are.
Absolutely. And remember, the Horites were already in Seir. The chapter talks about them interacting, maybe even fighting. People have always moved around. Searching for something better, running from trouble, or just exploring. That's part of being human.
It's really interesting how Genesis goes into so much detail. It's like it's saying that every person, every family matters. These aren't just random names. They're sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, all part of the story.
It's like it's saying every life has meaning, right? Each name is a life lived, a story to be told. Just like Esau's story made us curious, our own lives might have interesting details for future generations.
That's a pretty amazing thought. We're all connected, part of something much bigger. When we look at these old genealogies, we understand our place in the world better, how we're connected to the past, and what we might mean for the future.
So as we finish up Genesis chapter 36, think about looking into your own family history. Go back in time, find the stories that made you who you are. You never know what you might find.
Exactly. All those names, all those connections, they have stories of courage, adventure, love, and sadness. When you put them all together, it's a picture of what it means to be human. We're all part of something much bigger than ourselves.
It's been great diving deep into this chapter with you.
Yeah. Until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions. There's always something new and amazing waiting to be discovered.